Alright, so now that we have the tools we have to create HTML web pages, now we can actually create one. And what I'm going to do is create a new folder, and I'm going to call it Chapter 1, Section 3. And I just want to create a new HTML file. So I'm going to go to New Text Document, and we want to say index.html. Whoop. So it's asking if we want to change the file extension to HTML, and we do. So just click yes. And if we open this up now, we have absolutely nothing. So I want to add some structure to this. We went over this a little bit in the PowerPoint tutorial. I'm going to open with Notepad++, and we're going to start. Now, before we add our opening HTML tag, we need to create a doc type. And a doc type is just something the browser looks at to tell which markup language and which version you're using. There's XHTML, there's HTML, DHTML, and there's all just different kinds. In this series, we're going to mostly just be using HTML5, which is just a doc type. So I'll show you. We got doc type, and then we want to have a space and then HTML. Now I can show you the difference if we go to, let's just search for XHTML doc type. And this is what we would put if we were going to be using XHTML. You can see that the HTML version is much simpler. So if you want to develop XHTML websites or web pages, then by all means, but I've just been using HTML5 a lot lately. Alright, so we have the doc type. Now this does not count as the opening HTML tag, and sometimes people think that because of this here, this HTML. We need to create that again. So we need to say HTML, and then we want to have a closing tag. Now you can add the tags in a linear fashion if you want, but I like to create the opening tag and then the closing tag down below, as opposed to just going in a linear motion. So the next thing we need is a head tag, and I'm going to close that. And then we need a body tag, and close that up. Now remember, in the head, the content in the head area isn't displayed inside of the browser. There's only a couple things that we would need here, and the main thing is the title. So we want to open up a title tag and close the title tag. And in between that, we can have our title. So we'll say my first HTML page. Not firsty, first HTML page. Now we can add some stuff to the body. And let me just save this and show you. You can see right here, by default, this tab says index.html, which is just the name of the file. But if we reload this, you can see it's changed to my first HTML page. So now let's add some content in the body. The first thing I want to do, we'll just create an h1 tag, and we'll say welcome everyone. And then we can put in a paragraph, and we'll just say this is my very first HTML page. Close the paragraph. Okay, so next I want to show you the different headings. So I'm going to copy this, and we'll say this is a heading, and copy all the, I'm gonna create all the headings. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can change these. This can be header 2, 3, whoop, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so that's all the headings. If I save that and we reload, we'll be able to see that we have our H1, we have our paragraph, and then we have our H1 through H6. You can see the sizing is different. And some browsers will change it just a little bit. So that's why a lot of the times, we'll get into this later, but a lot of the times I use a reset CSS file that will make everything we'll make all the headings into one size, and then as we develop the site, we can add extra CSS styling to change the size of the headings, as opposed to letting the browser do it. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to put here is a line break. Now a line break doesn't need an opening and closing tag, so we can just do BR like that, and that's just a space. So next I'll show you a link. So a link is used with the A tag, and we need the element called href, which will allow us to put the destination that we want our link to point to. In this case, I'm just going to say page.html. Okay, and we just want to close that, and we can say this is a link to a page on our server. And you can tell that it's on our server because we don't have a website. We don't have an http whatever.com. All we have is page HTML, so it's going to check our website for page HTML. Alright, so let's make another line break. And now we can do the same thing, but we can point to an external website. So let's say a href http, I'm sorry, I can't type today, http google.com. We'll say this link goes to Google. Alright, so let's save this and check it out in the browser. So we have, this is a link to a page on our server, and you can see down here when I hover over it, it's going to our site or our folder / page.html, which obviously there's nothing here. We didn't create a page HTML, so there's nothing there. This link will go to Google, so if we click that, it brings us to Google, but it took us away from our site. And good practice is to have it open in a new window if it's going off your site. That way your site is still in the browser, and that's really easy to do. All we need to do is add another attribute to the A tag, and that's called target, and the value we want for this is _ blank, and that just means that it's going to open it in a new window. So if we save this, reload, and we click on this, you can see another window opens. Our site is still here. Okay, so that's good tactic to use to keep people on your site. Alright, so let's go back to our code and let's add a couple line breaks. And what I want to do now is show you how to insert an image. I'm going to put the image in a div tag, and div tags by default don't do anything. They don't format your text or whatever anyway. You actually have to do it through CSS. So in the div tag, I'm going to create an image tag. Alright, so I told you we don't need to end it. We can just do this. Now we do need an attribute. we need a couple attributes. The first one is the source attribute, which is src, and that is going to be equal to the location of the image. Before we do that though, I'm going to show you another attribute which is called alt, and that stands for alternative, and what this is this will be the text that'll display if for some reason the browser doesn't find your image. Alright, so in this one we'll just say sample image, and let's save that and go and reload, and you can see all we have here is some text that says sample image, and that's because the browser can't find the image because we didn't put anything in the source. So what I'm going to do now is go back to our folder, and I'm going to add an image to it. Let me just drag this over here. So let's just look at this. So basically I just have this sample image of it looks like a ball with a colorful background, or a pinwheel or something, but we're going to use this image, and if you see this, the name of it is simpleimage.jpg, and you can see that it's right in the same folder. In the next section we'll create an images folder and we'll put it in there, and then we'll have to point to that. But in this case, it's right in the same folder, so all we have to do is type the name of the image, which is simpleimage.jpg. Save that, and now if we reload, now we see the image. So that's it for creating our markup. In the next section, I want to take this same page and I want to add some styling to it through CSS. So I'll see you in the next section.